Hey everyone, my name is Nathan. I'm super excited to be with you today. This is a live session, so I imagine that there's going to be lots of questions, and I hope that there is. We have Sage Healer joining us. Sage is going to be QAing. Sage, do you want to quick introduce yourself?
Certainly. Hello, everyone. This is Sage. I work as a customer success manager on a team adjacent to Nate. Super excited for you all to garner some insights during his session today.
Awesome. Thanks, Sage. Well, hey, everyone. This is obviously super exciting. Last year, I was able to present on this same session. There was great turnout, lots of really good feedback, and we felt like it would be a great opportunity to be able to do the session again this year. So if you were here last year, you're going to see some same content. But once again, in my mind, you can never get enough. There's always things that you can learn, and hopefully you'll be able to pull something from this. For everyone that's new, this session is going from good to great reporting. And it's something that I love talking about, and I'll tell you why here in just a minute. But like I said, my name's Nathan. I'm an implementation consultant here at QuickBase. I've been with QuickBase for a little over a year now. However, prior to QuickBase, I was a customer. I started back in 2016 at a really small startup company here in Utah, and we just kind of went from there. I didn't know what I was doing. I remember I got a demo of QuickBase, and I just really didn't remember anything, but I knew simply because I saw another company using QuickBase that if they can do it, then I could do it as well. And so I took QuickBase from that small company, went to another company where we grew with QuickBase to over 75 users, and I loved every minute of it. It really became the backbone of our company in order to be able to do a variety of different things in a variety of different capacities. And I decided to come and work for QuickBase, and I've loved it. So I know what it's like to be an employee, and I also know what it's like to be a customer. And so with that, I want to be able to share with you what I know, and hopefully you'll be able to take something from this. So just a couple housekeeping things. I know that this is day 3, so a lot of you are already familiar with this on 24. You can obviously move things around. You can you're able to ask questions in the different widgets, primarily the Q&A widget, the attendee chat. That's one where we'll be able to monitor questions. And if I get a chance and I see something, I will address it during the session. If not, Sage is going to help me monitor that and make sure that we get all of your questions answered towards the end. So if you have any questions, please, please, please ask them. I think that really drives good conversation, and I want to make sure that you feel like you got what you needed out of this session. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. Here are the key takeaways. I want you to walk away with this in mind, feeling like I now have what I need to be able to go from good to great in my reporting within my business. So here are the key takeaways. By the end of this, I want you to feel comfortable to be able to use report link fields to embed charts on your forms. I want you to be able to control what happens when you click a segment of a chart by setting drill downs, and improve the appearance and functionality of your reports by adding report formulas. And last but not least, build reports that are optimized and user-friendly by utilizing report configurations. So we're going to break these down into very digestible segments, and I'm going to be demoing along the way in an app called the Music Collection, which I love the application. It's so simple, but yet it's fun, it's exciting, and it really helps us understand the basics and how we can take that and implement that within our own applications. So let's go ahead and go over the agenda. We're going to talk today about 3 primary things. That is report links, report drill downs, report formulas, and then I'm going to go over some tips and tricks, and then we'll go ahead and have the Q&A. So please make sure you write down your questions, and we will get to them as quickly as possible. So let's go ahead and talk about the music application. This is the application that I'm going to be demoing. Now, there are only 3 tables within this application. So here is the tables and relationship structure. We have artists, and artists can have many albums, and albums can have many songs. Now, when we hop into this application, this is not a comprehensive database of music. This was something that was put together out of a data set, but it is real data. So everything you're about to see is real. It's not made up. And what actually is really fun about that is that everything we're about to talk about is real, and it's fun and it's engaging. And so if you have any questions around that, please let me know. But we will be looking at the music application in just a moment. So, and really quick, I think I caught a question that says, should we download the app? This isn't actually on the Exchange, so there is no application to download. Just go ahead and enjoy watching and following along. Okay, fantastic. So the very first thing we're going to talk about is report links. And I've got a little line at the very right below that says data in the right place that best tells a story. And I put that simply because report links was one of those things for me that I didn't quite understand what a report link was. And I'm going to talk about why that is and how we can actually bring those to life to best tell a story right from within our form. So let's go ahead and hop into my music application. We'll set the stage and we will go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to wait just a couple of seconds because it takes just a moment to switch over. Sage, do you want to give me an okay when you see my music app?
You're all set.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks, Sage. So here is my music collection. Right off the bat, you're going to see some images. These are actually all album covers that I have placed on the dashboard. Each of them actually link right into the album. So I can actually click on Bruno Mars and it takes me right into his 24K Magic album. Just kind of something for fun, a great visual to be able to navigate right off of the bat. As you scroll down, you're going to see some other charts and graphs talking about different metrics on the songs that are within here. And we're going to dive into this dashboard in just a minute, but I wanted to give you a sneak peek of what it looks like and actually go back up to the top and once again show you we've got artists, albums, and songs. And in fact, if I go to the relationship diagram, you can see just that. I just wanted to illustrate that this is what we're dealing with. It's very simple, very straightforward. Now, I know what some of you are probably thinking. Nate, I've got hundreds of applications, or maybe you don't have hundreds. Maybe you've got, I've got like hundreds of tables and I've got multiple applications, right? That's great. This still is applicable. Although this is a very simple version of an app with a 3-table structure, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to take the concepts from what I'm about to teach you and implement that within your application. So I actually show you this because I like to take QuickBase back to the basics. I like to strip out all of the the fancy things, and I like to actually just show how do we actually get stuff done and how do we make sense of it. Because if you can understand the basics, you can build upon that. And so that's what I'm about to teach you here. So heading back to the dashboard, we are obviously going to talk about report links. And to illustrate report links, I'm going to navigate to the albums table. And you're going to see a list of all of my albums. And you'll see some information, the album name, the date that it was released, if it has a rating. You can even see a little thumbnail. We are going to go ahead and I'm not going to let anyone down. If you were in my session last year, we are going to focus on Drake. I can't say that Drake's my favorite, but for whatever reason, Drake within this database, all the right things come out with his music and the type of music that it is. So let's use Drake as our example, and we're going to use his album name Scorpion. So we're talking about report links, and I'm going to scroll down because obviously this is album information up top. We're all familiar with the way that this looks, and there's different sections. Down at the very bottom, though, is an embedded report. And this is an embedded report for songs. Now, we know that the album table is the parent table and songs is the child table. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a customer, when I created a relationship between a parent and a child, these report links were automatically created for me, and they are for you. The difference is I had no idea how they were actually created because, well, QuickBase did it for me, and that's a good and a bad thing. The great thing about that is that they are so valuable to be able to see these embedded reports. The bad thing, however, is that we don't necessarily learn how to do it because it's done for us. So I'm here to teach you, how do we actually create a report link, and why do we want to create a report link? So let's talk about how to create a report link. And then we're going to talk about the different things that we can do with report links, primarily embedding a graph within your form, which, by the way, I'm going to admit, for like the first 2 years of being a QuickBase customer, I had no idea that you could embed a chart within a form. And the first time that I saw it, I was like, my mind was blown, because I was like, there are so many possibilities for me to be able to bring in data and display it in a different way other than just an embedded report like you see down here. So let's go ahead and create the report link. I'm going to go ahead and add a field before the embedded report below, and I'm going to call this report link. And I'm going to go ahead and actually choose a report link type. So there is actually a field type called report link, and we're going to go ahead and click done. I'm going to scroll down, and like, I remember when I very first did this, I was a little disheartened because instantly it says broken link, and you're like, I just created it. How in the world did I already break it? Don't worry, report links have to be configured. And oftentimes, actually, this is where people get lost, and rightfully so. It's not something that is as intuitive as you might think, but yet there are some keys to being able to do it in a very easy way. So I'm actually going to go into the field properties, and I'm going to take a look at under here where it says report link field options. This is where the magic happens to getting this to work. You need to match the values in this table field from this, you need to match the values in this field from this table, right there on the left, to the values in this field on the right. However, what are those values? There is a little trick to this. I'm going to open up a new tab. I'm going to go to settings, and I'm going to look at the relationship between the two tables, albums and songs. Now, this is actually where the key information is. So on the left-hand side, we see that the record ID is the key field. And on the right-hand side, we see that the related album is the reference field. This is exactly what we need in order to configure our report link. So let's just copy it. Let's go back here, and on the left-hand side, we want to choose record ID right there. Fantastic. So that matches our parent table on the left-hand side, record ID right there. And now we are going to look for related albums. So let's go back here. Let's go ahead and select the target. I am first going to choose my music app. It asks you the app. I've got multiple apps in here. Now that it shows you, now that you're in the app, it actually will show you every single field for every single table, which this list can get kind of long. The table is on, the table name's on the left side of the colon, and then you have the field name on the right-hand side. So you'll notice that we've got artists. As I scroll down, here's all my albums, and here's my songs. To make it easy, I do a control find, and I'm going to search for a related album. And notice there it is. There's my songs, colon, related album. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And I'm going to hop back over here, and there we go. We've got the record ID is matched to the related album, just like the relationship tells us it should be. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And now let's go ahead and take a look. So we scroll down. It says Report Link 11. And this is also kind of confusing. What in the world does 11 mean? Do I have 11 child records? No, I know I don't, because I only have 4 songs underneath Drake. So what's 11? 11 actually is the record ID of the parent table. So this is actually album 11, which is why it is showing 11 right here, just in case you're wondering where that number came from. But that's not the number that we want to display. We actually want to display a chart or a graph within our albums table. So I want to go ahead and create that chart in the child table so that I can therefore pull it into the parent table. So we're going to pause on the report link. We're going to go ahead and create a graph that we want, and then we're going to pull it into this actual record. So let's set up the use case for that. Songs, you'll actually, if you didn't notice, I'm going to open up my songs table. Here are all of our songs, and they have different metrics. One of the metrics is danceability, and I know it sounds super funny. And last year when I explained it, the best way to explain danceability is it's on a scale of 0 to 1. 0 is you're not going to dance to the song because it's super boring, or it just doesn't have a good beat. And 1 is like, I can't stop dancing to the song. I'm going to dance all night long, right? So we want to display the average danceability for Drake's album, okay? So what we do is we need to create an average danceability gauge is what we're going to do. So I'm in the songs table, and I'm going to go ahead and create that gauge. Once it's created, and I am then going to pull it into the albums table. So let's go ahead and click new, and we are going to create a chart, and we are going to call this average danceability. And we can do the same for the description. And we're not going to talk about reports and charts panel right now. We're going to skip a few things just to illustrate this report link, and we'll dive back into report configurations in just a bit. So select a type of chart. We are going to go ahead and do a gauge. And this gauge is going to measure the danceability, but not the sum of the danceability. We want the average. And we are going to name this average. Actually, I'll just paste it in, average danceability. Now, our goal, or the gauge limits, it starts at 0. Remember, I said that it's measured between 0 and 1. So our goal is going to be a number value, and we are going to make it a goal of 1. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. That's all we need to do because we don't want to run any filters. We just want the average danceability of all of the songs. So let's see what it is. So the average danceability is 0.71. Now, there are no filters on this. And right now, this report only lives in the songs table. So how do we get this report into the albums? And not only into the albums, but how do we filter it out so that whatever album we click on, it automatically shows us the average danceability of that particular album? So let's go ahead and hop back over to Drake. And we're in the Scorpion album. Down here on this report link, now that it's been configured, we actually can tell it what we want it to display. So if we right click on it and go to the properties of the form, you will notice on the right hand side in this second pane, currently there's a radio button that says display just as a link to the related songs. We actually want to choose display the related songs directly on the form. And not only that, but we can base the display on a report. Now, the report does not have to be a table of rows and columns. It actually can be a graph or a chart. So since I've already created it, look at what is right there, my average danceability. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and click Save, and it is going to pull in that gauge. And now notice that it is now actually 0.77, not 0.71, which means that Drake has a higher average danceability for his Scorpion album than all of the songs combined. So his average is higher. And that is the basics of a report link. Now, I know many of you are saying, well, Nate, we could have just gone to the report link that QuickBase created and have done the same thing. We could have switched to average danceability right from here. And you're correct. But now you know how to create one from scratch, because you might need to be able to create multiples of these. And you can copy them, but now you understand the mechanics behind it, which I think is arguably more important than knowing how just to simply copy it. So that is a report link, and that is how we get those into here. Now, I know that last year someone asked the question, can we embed that report at the artist level? Now, it's a really interesting question. That's basically asking, can we embed a child record or child records into grandfather records? And the answer is yes. I want to impress something upon your minds. If we go back to the relationship diagram, many people, to accomplish this, will create a relationship. Let me go ahead in here. They will create a relationship from artists directly to songs, bypassing albums. And this relationship, although it works, is actually unnecessary. You do not need to create a relationship directly to it simply because you have an indirect relationship to songs through albums. And remember, all we are doing is we're matching the record ID of the parent table, or in this case, the grandparent table, down to the songs. So if we think about this, we know that albums has the record ID of the artist. It's called the related artist. If we were just to simply pass that down into songs, we then could create a report link in artists and match the two. I'm going to go ahead and illustrate that. I'm going to move a little bit quicker, but I want to show you how that's done. So let's go to albums and let's go into the relationship. And we are actually going to, we know that albums has the related artist, so let's pass it down to songs. So if I come into here, I have already passed it. Notice here is related artist, and it's a numeric. So that's coming all the way from the artist to albums to songs. So I've passed it in. So now that I know that the songs has it, let's go ahead and hop over into artists, and let's go into, we can go into, let's do Maroon 5, why not? So down here, we're gonna go ahead and create our report link. Okay, and then we're gonna go ahead and configure it. So once again, we're gonna choose the record ID. Now the target, here's the target. Remember, what is the reference field all the way down at the child table? Well, we know that it is called related artist. So let's go ahead and search for related artist. Here's the one in albums. We want the one in songs down here at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, click save. Once again, the report link is 12. That's the record ID of the artist. Now I can go ahead and swap that out to display a chart. And I'm going to choose average danceability. And just like that, there is the average danceability for Maroon 5, all the way up at the grandparent level, which is really cool. So this saves you a relationship. And now that you know how to create report links, you now can bridge the gap between a grandparent record and a grandchild record without creating an additional relationship. And therefore, you're able to pull your information up and tell a better story. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back, and we are going to go over into the presentation, and we're going to go ahead and do a recap. So here we go with report links, the overview. We can easily display child records on the parent table. And we can also, report links are not just table reports. They can be other report types such as charts and are highly customizable. And last but not least, report links are a great way to help bring key data to the eyes of the end user in a way that tells a story. And you're going to see a theme about this. It's about telling stories. Because that's really what we are trying to do with our data is we need people to be able to consume it and understand what they are reading or what they are actually saying. So let's go ahead and move on from report links. So we've got report drill downs next. Down below, you'll see that it says control the experience at every click. Now, before I actually demonstrate this, I will admit, I was in a meeting one time with some other senior leaders, and we had QuickBase up on the screen, and I had this beautiful dashboard. I was actually very happy about it. And they said, Nate, can you actually click into the sales for that month? And instantly I knew that the moment that I clicked on that report, that it was going to take me somewhere that I did not know what it looked like. And sure enough, I clicked on it. It looked really bad because it just pulled up a default report. There were fields all over the place. They weren't in order. And I quickly went back to the homepage and said, let's just go ahead and have our conversation here. So that's why I say, let's control the experience at every click and be intentional about it, because you will find yourself having to explain something, or you will find a user who's looking for more information. Let's control that experience. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to go ahead and hop right back into my QuickBase application. So I am now on my homepage, and it should be appearing very, very shortly for you. Let's go ahead and scroll down, and I want to focus our attention around this energy graph. Now, energy is measured between 0 and 1, and what I did with this is I actually decided to display a pie chart, and I grouped the energy levels. So you can see that we've got 24% of the songs, aka 7 songs, have an energy level between 0.5 and 0.6, and it's so on and so on. Now, remember, we're sitting in that meeting, and someone says, Nate, can you show us the 7 songs that are between 0.5 and 0.6? And I say, okay, and I click here, and all of a sudden it takes me to this screen, and I'm like, oh, I don't want them to see the song ID. Oh, look, I've got a couple of fields right here that are blank. Like, this just isn't telling you anything other than the song name, which at that, like, you're going to get lost in this data. So let's control that experience. What we want to do is we want to set what we call report drill downs. Now, some of you may have seen these. If I customize this report, I can actually come in here, and if I scroll to the bottom, there is this section called drill down report, and you can set the drill down behavior. I want to drill down into something that's, once again, going to help me tell that story. Now, a lot of people don't realize that you can actually drill down from a report into a chart or a graph, which actually is really cool because it gives you another visual than just, columns and rows. So I want to show you the drill down that we are going to set. I'm going to go ahead and go to the songs table. Now, this is really important. If you create a report or chart in a table, the drill down has to live within the same table. So the energy is coming from the songs table. So if I'm going to drill down, I need to create another report or chart within the songs table, and then I can link the two together. So if I go to my songs table and I look at reports and charts, I actually have created this energy drill down report. And we can quick take a look at it so that you know what I did. I named it drill down. By the way, you do not have to name it drill down in order for it to be a drill down. This is just for illustration purposes. All it is it's a horizontal bar chart, and my y-axis is my song name, and my x-axis is the energy. Because remember, we are looking at a pie chart of energy, and it's being grouped. So I thought, why don't we display energy in a horizontal bar chart? That way, when we drill down into it, we can actually stack rank the energy of the songs within that segment. Now, I know that's a little bit of inception. I'll go ahead and illustrate it for you, and you can see what I'm talking about. So that's it. We didn't run a series. I am displaying data labels, but there's no filters. We just simply have the energy of all of the songs in a horizontal bar chart grouped from high to low. So you'll see that Nice for What is at 0.91, and then we've got the Perfect Duet by Ed Sheeran and Beyonce at 0.3. So let's hop back over here to my energy chart, my energy pie chart, and I'm going to go ahead and set the drill down. And notice, here is my energy drill down, and I can go ahead and click Save. Watch how cool this is. Now, we're back in the meeting, right? And someone says, Nate, can you click on the 0.5 to 0.6 group? And I said, absolutely. Check this out. So within here, we know that What Lovers Do is at 0.6, and Havana is at 0.52. So within that segment, within that range, we have now stack ranked them. And QuickBase will automatically pass the filters down into this energy drill down report or any report and display them in whatever configuration you've told it to do. So look at that experience. It's a much better experience. Now I can click on this, and this will take me to another drill down, right? And I see that I Fall Apart is by Post Malone. And now if I click into it, I am now actually at the very bottom of the drill down. This is actually the record, which is as far as you can go. So the point is that I controlled that experience and I told it exactly what to do. Report drill downs are extremely important, and I would highly suggest that every time you create a report that you intentionally make a conscious decision of where or what it is going to do. Now, one thing you will notice is that I said where or what. It doesn't necessarily have to drill down. You can actually disable that. So if I wanted this just to be a visual representation and not something that is functional, you can actually disable it by going back into here, scrolling down, and instead of choosing an energy drill down, I'm just going to choose none, and I'm going to disable it. Now, this is actually nice sometimes if you don't want people clicking around or drilling down. It'll still highlight the sections. You just can't click into it. So that's why I said either disable it or tell it where to go. Never leave it as the default. And I'm going to tell you that that is seriously going to take your reporting to the next level for your end users. They are going to find a much, much better experience, and you will have provided that for them. So let's go ahead and hop back over to here. I'll stop my screen share, and we are going to go ahead and summarize report drill downs. So report drill downs let users get more granular on data. Think about it. You go from a 30,000 foot view to a 20,000 foot view to a 10,000 and so on. That's what I love about this is you really are catering and customizing that experience. Report drill downs help with user flow and data interpretability. And last but not least, report drill downs can connect reports to other reports, aka the drill down, in the same table in a way that helps tell the story, right? You're giving that visual representation. People are going to resonate with it, and it's going to make more sense. You're going to eliminate a lot of confusion, and you're going to illuminate a lot of knowledge capture, which is honestly what we are trying to accomplish here. So fantastic. Let's go ahead and move on to report formulas. And let's talk about that. So report formulas, we want to increase readability and usability. Report formulas are not necessarily new, within the last 6 months anyways. I think they came out within the last year or two. And they are something that I will admit I kind of shied away from, because when I was building a report and then I saw a section where I could do a report formula, I just said, I don't think that's for me. I'm going to go ahead and skip it. So let's actually show you what report formulas are and how they are useful. So I'm back at my music collection, and this time, I'm going to give it just a second to catch up. This time, I'm going to go ahead and go to my artists table. And here is a list of all of my artists. And you'll see we've got like Bruno Mars and Calvin Harris. So I want to be able to sort and group this by my favorite artist, right? So without showing you a report formula, let me just go ahead and show you what it looks like if I sort and group it by a simple checkbox. So I've got this favorite artists column over here, and you'll see that it's checked on all of these. These are all of my favorite artists, and I want to go ahead and sort and group by my favorite artists. So if I come in here to my settings, I'm just going to go ahead and scroll down. I'm going to scroll past the report formulas, which I normally do, or I used to do, and I'm going to go ahead and sort, and I'm going to sort from high to low by favorite artists, which is a checkbox. Did you see that? This is a checkbox. And I'm just going to go ahead and click save. So this right here, excuse me, I clicked sort from high to low. I need to click sort and group from high to low. Do that all the time. Here we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and click save. So you will notice that it says favorite artists, yes, and then it says favorite artists, no. Checkboxes are controlled by a yes or a no, which is a true or false, right? So we actually can control that label with a formula field. So instead of allowing QuickBase to interpret it, we can actually tell it how to interpret it with a formula field, which is really cool. This has gotten tremendously better with our new report with our new reports that were rolled out. These are phenomenal reports. You'll obviously notice that we're in the new style. The old style, just to kind of show you the difference, it used to just say yes, 6 artists, and it said no, 7 artists. So in the old style, it was even harder to know like yes, what, and no, what. In our new style, it's a lot better, but I want to show you how we can actually manipulate that to say exactly what we want it to say. So if we go into the settings, we can actually build a report formula. And you'll notice that there is this section right here, report formulas. None have been added. So what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and click plus, add a report formula. And it's going to default to saying that this is Formula 1. We're going to go ahead and give it a name, favorite artists. And we actually choose the formula type. And you'll notice that all of these should resonate with the different types that we have. So numeric, date, duration, etc. This is going to be a formula text field. And we can go ahead and click this green check mark to say, yes, I'm going to label it favorite artists, and this is going to be the field type. Now we actually want to write the formula. So I want to say, I want to actually analyze that checkbox. And if it's true, I want it to say, these are my favorite artists. And if it's false, I want it to say, these are not my favorite artists. So we're going to say if, and we are going to write a formula. And we're going to go ahead and find the field that's the checkbox, favorite artists. And we're going to say, hey, if it's true, then we are going to say, these are my favorite artists. If it's not true, meaning otherwise, we are going to say, these are not my favorite artists. We're going to go ahead and it automatically saves it for us. So you're probably asking, well, what just happened here? Well, a couple of things just happened. The moment that you hit that green check mark, it automatically created a new field called favorite artists. Now, I'm actually going to name it favorite artists 2.0 because my other checkbox field, if I'm not mistaken, is called favorite artists. So this will help us distinguish that. If I actually scroll up, look at how quick that was. It's instantaneous. Here is favorite artists 2.0. However, what a lot of people don't realize is that not only does it make it an available column for you to use, it also makes it available to sort and group with. So notice at the very bottom, here is my favorite artists 2.0. So I'm actually going to now sort and group from high to low by favorite artists 2.0, which is this formula right here. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what it does. Notice these are not my favorite artists. See how I controlled that header? And then down below I have these are my favorite artists. So once again, report formulas are really cool for a couple of reasons. Number one, as you just saw, you actually can control how you sort and group things. A lot of people don't realize that, but I just created a report formula that took a checkbox that is either yes or no, and I actually gave it some meaning. I gave it some words behind it so that if someone was to look at this, they could be like, these are not my favorite artists. Oh, these are my favorite artists, right? As if you don't know. But nonetheless, we now just changed the look and the feel of this without actually creating a field. So that's actually really important to touch on. I'm going to go ahead and hop back in here. This report formula that we just did not create a field within the albums table, or excuse me, within the artists table. So check this out. If I go to artists and I go into fields in my settings, I'm going to search for favorite artists. I only have my checkbox field. I do not have a favorite artists 2.0. So this is actually really cool because if you do not have permission to create formula fields, you still can create formula fields within a report. Now, the one caveat to this, which actually is a good thing, is that report formulas are specific to the report. So if I created another report right now, I would not have my favorite artists 2.0 as an option. It is only specific to that report, which is really nice because sometimes you just want to perform a calculation on a report without actually creating a field within QuickBase, because that field, let's say, is only ever going to be used once, or it's specific to a report that you are creating. So this does not transfer to other reports. This is specific to the reports that it's created within. And on top of that, if you don't have permissions to create fields, you still can create report formulas, which is really cool because you can perform those calculations without giving up the rights to creating fields. So that's something really important to note. Also, you can add multiple report formulas. Really, the sky's the limit. I just scratched the tip of the iceberg here with what you can do. So report formulas are something that there are a wide variety of use cases for these. I've seen some really cool things done. I mostly just wanted to illustrate what a report formula is, why it's beneficial, and show you an example of actually how we would create one and what it does to a report, and how it truly changes how that report is visualized and interpreted. It really can bring it to life. It helps with sorting and grouping, and it's not just another column within the report. So we'll go ahead and go back over to here, and we will go into the report formulas overview. So here is the overview. Report formulas allow for one-time inline report calculations that don't show up on forms. We talked about that. Report formulas are a great way to perform analysis on data, especially if you don't have access to build formula fields. And last but not least, report formulas help bring data to life in a report by performing calculations to display data in a way that tells a story. So once again, kind of going back to telling that story within QuickBase. Fantastic. So I have this slide up that says data always tells a story, but does it tell the right story? True story. I was once again sitting in another meeting, and the CEO said, "Hey, Nate, how much revenue did we do this month?" And I said a number, and then I said plus or minus $10,000. And I chuckled. He kind of chuckled. I chuckled because I knew it was true. We were a young company. We were trying our best to have data integrity, to get things to flow properly between systems. But at the end of the day, I gave me that buffer because I just didn't know if I was telling the right story. Over the years, I have learned how to tell that story, how to make sure that what is being displayed is true and it's accurate. Because I will tell you this, that data always tells a story. But honestly, the question should be, does it tell the right story? Because if it doesn't tell the right story, you might as well not show it at all, right? As QuickBase builders and people who love working within such an agile system such as QuickBase, it is honestly our responsibility to make sure that we are managing data properly. And part of that is how we report on data and reporting it in a very effective and efficient manner. So I hope that you're able to see just through these couple of tips and tricks with report links, report drill downs, and report formulas, how we can help manipulate the data, show it in a different light, and really tell the right story, help the users get to the data quickly. Before we end, I wanted to kind of go over some report tips and tricks. I want to hop back into there and go over that really quickly. So one of the things with report tips and tricks that I want to share is that at that same company, we had a table that was logging all of our phone calls. And I got an email from QuickBase that said, "Hey, did you know that you've got a lot of records in this table and that you're loading a report to display all of the records multiple times a day?" And I was like, "No, I had no idea. I just have a report that shows all records on this table." And I didn't actually understand that you could run filters on a report that would do a couple of different things. Number one, it increases performance. Number two, it really actually, you serve up the information that's most relevant to the end user as opposed to just dumping everything on them. So if we were to go into this report, just to kind of go over some tips and tricks, one of the things that that is really important, and I'm going to scroll down to this, is the filters within a report. So we have not gone over filters, but filters are extremely important because you can filter out things that are no longer relevant. So for instance, I wanted to filter out phone calls that were older than 3 months. So I ran a filter that says, you know, if the call date is on or before 3 months in the past, then we don't want to see it, right? So that eliminated almost 500,000 records because they were no longer necessary. And it's not that those records go, it's not like they get deleted. We're just simply not viewing them. We've filtered them out. So there are so many different reasons why you would want to run filters to be able to make sure that you're, that the data that you're displaying is exactly the data that needs to be consumed. And B, it's not necessary to load all of the data at once, and we can really help out with performance and make things just a fantastic experience as we run filters. So filters can be combined. You can have ands, you can have or statements. So I could say, hey, only show me all of the artists where the genre is equal to country. Now, I wouldn't want to do that. I would choose more like pop rock or rock or soul or something. I'm just kidding. Country's great. But the point is that you can choose something. So let's go ahead and choose country. And I can say, and I actually only want to see where the genre is equal to country. But the artist name contains, you know, Ariana Grande or Taylor Swift or whatever it might be. You can run all of those filters here. So filters are extremely important, and I would highly suggest running those filters. I did want to touch on one thing that is new this year. Our dynamic filters right here. Notice I'm going to go ahead and click cancel. And I'm going to toggle to the old report. This is the old report right here. And on the filters on the left-hand side, you'll probably recognize these as your dynamic filters. On our new reports, the dynamic filters on the left-hand side will simply display across the top of the report as these buttons, which gives you more width on the screen. And it's a filter for you to be able to easily click and say, okay, show me all of Daddy Yankee. And here is Daddy Yankee. And I am sorry, Daddy Yankee, you are not one of my favorite artists. That may or may not be true. Like I said, this is all just for fun. So the point is, though, is that those dynamic filters now are available on the top, which is actually really nice. And I've loved having those. A couple other tips and tricks, by the way, is you can, we have, obviously there's descriptions up top. By default, descriptions do not show up. So I typically suggest showing descriptions on reports, especially if the report isn't easily interpretable. So here's a great example. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my homepage, and I want you to look at this graph right here called loudness. Now, I've got a description on here, and I know that the overall loudness of a track is measured in decibels, but it's actually measured in a range between -60 and 0. Now, had I not known that, I would think that anything above 0 is loud and anything below 0 is, well, maybe it's just like not loud or it's quiet. I have no idea, honestly. If I didn't know about music, I would not know that it is measured between -60 and 0. Therefore, we can actually see how loud it gets as the graph progresses further down and to the right. So if I click on this, I actually see that, once again, Drake came in first with the loudest song on, it's called God's Plan from the Scorpion album. So report descriptions are really important because although it's simple for you to know because you created it, it doesn't always mean that it's going to be simple for your end users to know. So I highly suggest creating those descriptions and displaying them, if at all possible, to really help drive that experience. So here's a great example of a description within here. We've got this section right here, which this is where you can control permissions. So you can say that everyone can see it, only users in specific roles, like an admin can see this, or no one, hide it, and it actually doesn't appear in the panel. And then you can group these reports if you would like. So you can create different groupings. Let me show you how to do that. If I go to Artists, click on Reports and Charts, you can have groups right here. Let's go to Songs and do it. Reports and Charts. So here's all of my songs. I can actually click Organize. If you didn't know you can do this, you totally can. I can drag this in here, and I can say song stats, and I can actually drag in over other song stats. So liveness, energy, and danceability, all within song stats. If I clicked on Organizing, and I actually go into average danceability, and I look at the settings of this report, instead of saying common, it's now going to say this is grouped within song stats. So actually really cool to be able to group your reports. But it looks like we're ending we're getting close to the end, and I want to make sure there's time for questions. I'm going to go ahead and hop back over to here, stop my screen share, and kind of go to the next slide, which is data storytelling. So this is obviously a screenshot of my application. To be honest, when I created this, I wanted to make it visually appealing. So I was very intentional with the graphs that I chose, the visuals, how they're displayed, as well as the colors within it, and trying to choose a good color scheme, because I wanted to make sure that I went to all of the hard work to setting up my application. I now want to highlight its best features. And in order to do that, I wanted to make sure that I really spent time on how I reported the data within the application. So all data tells a story, but doesn't tell the right story. And I argue that, yes, if we're intentional, if we are careful, and if we apply these practices, we will be able to tell the right story within our own application. So I'm going to go ahead and end. I'm going to go ahead and take questions. And I'm going to look at the chat right now. And Sage, if there's anything that popped up that you feel like would be a good one for me to address, please let me know.
Not anything in particular that stood out, although Brian S. had a great joke on the title of your session.
Yeah, if you heard me if you heard me pause during my session, it's because that caught my eye and it made me smile. So this chat is like also distracting, but I love it at the same time. So thanks for bringing in some humor into this. So yeah, if there's not any questions, we can go ahead and end. But I definitely want to make sure that there's time for questions. I know last year, and maybe I'll start there, people asked about how do we do the embedded reports on a grandparent record, which I illustrated. A lot of people asked.
One just came in. How does a photo get brought into a report? So I think that goes back to the thumbnail images you were.
Yeah, I was actually just about to address that one because people asked that last year. If I go to my music collection app, and it's probably still loading for you. If I customize this page, these images right here are being referenced. So I have an images table that I have hidden, and I uploaded all of the thumbnails, and I just gave them a width and a height, and I gave them, this is the URL that it references. So that's how you actually get the image in here and displayed properly. If you want it to be clickable, if you look at the little link here, this is the URL. So I actually just pointed it right to the album itself. So that's how I got the images in here. It took a little bit of time, but I love the visual and I love the navigation that it provided. So hopefully that answers your question. We host them in QuickBase, we reference them, we size them, and then we tell them where to go by designating the link. So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Erickson chimed in with a question. Any way to add a target line?
A target line.
I'm not sure if that was referring back to your gauge report that you showed, or maybe the loudness one.
Yeah, if you would like, you can message me directly in the Slack, and you can at me, and you can explain further if you'd like to see, maybe so that I can better understand. I do know that you can set targets as far as like goals. I think that would be right, a numeric goal. So we could say the goal for loudness is, let's say, 0.5. But that's not a valid number. So that might not be appropriate for this simply because it goes negative. But this is where you would set the goal lines for other graphs that you might have. And if that doesn't answer your question, please message me on Slack, and I'm more than happy to answer. So one other thing that I wanted to say before we end is last year people asked, how did you come up with colors? There is a tool that I use called Adobe Color Wheel. And I really love this tool because it's free, it's easy to use. But let's say that you have a company color. You can paste in that company color. So let's go ahead and just grab this blue right here. So if this is your company color, what I love about the Adobe Color Wheel is that you can come in, you can paste it right here, and it will give you all of the analogous, monochromatic, triad, complementary, etc. for this, which is amazing because if you use these colors in your reports and charts, it actually obviously brings them all together because they're all part of the same family or group of color. So this is something that I use. It's just a tip and trick that I probably should have shown you, but that's how I came up with these colors, which is honestly kind of why it brings it all together. So hopefully that's something that is helpful to you. But great deal. Any other questions or anything else that I can answer?
Yes, a good one from Jack Woods. He said, can you set a default dynamic filter?
A default dynamic filter. Yeah, that's a great question. There are certain fields that are allowed to be dynamic filters, and they usually are not known until obviously a table is created with the fields. And then when you create a report, QuickBase will look at the dynamic filters that are allowed to be used to dynamically filter that report. To my understanding, you can't actually set a dynamic filter. But in my experience, usually the ones that I use show up on the reports over and over. But that's a great question. I've actually never been asked that. But I want to say that for right now, you can't set a dynamic filter to be a default for other reports, but I think that's a fantastic suggestion. I would highly suggest putting that in like the user voice for QuickBase, because we look at that and we take that stuff into consideration. I know because I did that as a customer, and some of the things that I suggested eventually came to fruition. So please do suggest that if you think that would be beneficial, because I think it would.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sage, for helping fill these.
No worries. We have a couple more trickling in here. One from Cody. Is it possible to add a report list of images? We have our team that uploads images, but I can only show as a link.
To show your images. So, and maybe this answers your question. I don't know. That one more time, Sage?
Yeah, is it possible to add a report list of images? We have our team that uploads images, but I can only show a link.
So this is a report, and it does include an album thumbnail. If this is what you're referring to, because theoretically, yes, you could upload images, and instead of showing just the link to the image, you can display a thumbnail. I want to show you two things. Number one, this album cover is a file attachment field, and you actually can show a JPEG, PNG, or the GIF files, but it only shows it on the form. It doesn't show it on the report. So there is a little trick that you can do to take the link of this cover or of your file attachment and display it as a thumbnail. So I'll actually go into here for my thumbnail, and here is the code for my thumbnail. So why don't I paste this in the chat, and feel free to utilize this. There are also, I know there are things within the community that will actually help explain how to do thumbnails within QuickBase. So I hope that answers your question. If not, once again, please reach out to me, and I'd be more than happy to show you how to do it. Let me paste this in here. Yeah, by the way, I did this last time. If I paste in an image tag, it displays as an actual image icon. So if you want the code, just message me on Slack and I will send it to you in Slack, and it'll come through a little bit better. So. Okay.
Awesome.
Any other questions, Paige?
There are several, but I know we're coming up at time.
Yeah. Let me give everyone my email. Feel free to email me. Feel free to Slack me. I will get back to you as quickly as I can. So I think we're at time. I want to tell everyone thank you. And I appreciate any feedback that you might have on this session. If you could leave us a review. I appreciate you, Sage, for fielding the questions, and I hope everyone learned something today. So thanks so much for attending. It's been great, and it's been a pleasure.